Hey folks, this is Riker, and I'd like to wish all of you folks a happy thanks. What in the hell is that? This week, we got the patch notes for Diablo 4's upcoming Season 7 test server, which included some surprises. We're also inching ever closer to the early access release of Path of Exile 2, and have been getting new details dropped throughout the week. We also got some new Grim Dawn expansion details. And also in the news this week, I'll be doing something I never thought I would do. Defend Ubisoft. Huh. You'll have to stick around to find out why. But before we go on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Go Muffin. Do you want to explore a cozy fantasy world filled with adventure, teamwork, and strategic battles? Well, mark your calendars. Go Muffin, a brand new MMORPG for mobile players, officially launches on December 3rd at 4 p.m. PST. Pre-registration is open now, and early players can unlock exclusive rewards when the game goes live. Go Muffin combines relaxing casual gameplay with all the classic MMORPG features you love. Dungeons, bosses, and co-op gameplay. Whether you prefer manual or auto battle, the game offers quick and easy character progression even while you're offline. You can choose from 5 iconic classes, each with unique strengths and playstyles, and team up with a companion to tackle story battles. You can jump into 4 or 6 player party dungeons in which you'll team up with other players, coordinate your skills, and take down powerful bosses. Timing your skill casts and teamwork are key as different classes bring unique strategies to the fight. You can customize your character's build by collecting equipment, unlocking skills, and summoning melomons to enhance your combat power. With over 600 draws available from story quests and challenges alone, there's plenty of room to experiment. And for those who want to test the power of their builds, you can try to climb the leaderboards and grab that #1 spot. And for those who love personalization, there are plenty of stylish outfits and cosmetics to choose from. And while the game releases on December 3rd, you'll want to pre-register now to enjoy some great rewards, including exclusive headwear, back decorations, and up to 300 Stellarite, and more. Just search Go Muffin in the Google Play Store or App Store, pre-register, and you'll unlock these rewards at launch. The more players pre-register, the greater the rewards for everyone. So click the link in the description to download Go Muffin and start your adventure. And be sure to use the gift codes to get rewards in-game. Pre-register today to secure those rewards when the game launches on December 3rd. So starting with Diablo 4 news, we got this week the patch notes for next week's Season 7 test server, which is expected to run from December 3rd through 10th. As a reminder, Season 7 will be all about witch powers that will be able to farm up by killing new enemies called the Head Rotten. I've got a video going over the full Season 7 reveal. Do be sure to check that one out, but we'll go over some of the new information from the patch notes. The new witch powers, which are clearly inspired by witch doctors from Diablo 3, can be separated into 3 categories. Eldritch, which wield destructive energy and can polymorph. Psyche, which is defensive and focuses on buffs or nerfs. And Growth and Decay, which can both heal and harm. So, Firebats will be an Eldritch power. One Psyche power they gave as an example is Lifelink, which will make some nearby enemies take a percentage of the damage you are taking. Another is Aura of Misfortune, which makes enemies around you have a chance to have their attacks interrupted, while also slowing them down and buffing your own move speed. Now, last time we spoke about how some of these witch powers were auras, and I speculated that we were getting aura gameplay back this way, like paladins and monks from Diablo 2 and 3, but it seems that the witch power auras are not really party buffs. They're more nerfs to enemies and some self buffs, so not quite the kind of D2, D3 aura play that I was expecting. Some of the growth and decay powers include the Poison Frog Servant, as well as a return of Soul Harvest from D3 in a bit of a different form. Whenever you use a skill with a cooldown, you'll increase your core stat by 3% per nearby monster. Then there's the Grow power, which is pretty neat. When you cast an ult, all your minions will grow larger and deal more damage. So this is obviously huge for minion builds. No pun intended. And it ought to be pretty visually cool to see as well. Then there's the Cycle, which is a power that gives you a 15% chance to grow a flower from the ground whenever you deal damage. When an enemy gets near the flower, it'll probably explode and deal poison damage to them, but if an ally gets near the flower, it'll heal the ally for 6% of their max life, and each flower is a one-time use. And you can only have 1 flower grow every 5 seconds per enemy. So I do wonder if this means when fighting a ton of enemies, we're going to have a ton of flowers, a whole field of flowers. Then there are some lost powers that you can learn, like Pyrenedo, which when an enemy is afflicted by both a hex and an aura effect, you spawn a Pyrenedo that pulls in enemies and damages them. This one's limited to once per 20 seconds though. I'm a little concerned about Pyrenedo coming back in a form where we don't quite have as much control over where and when to spawn it, but I guess we'll see how it plays in practice. Another lost power is Aura Specialization, which increases the area of your auras and gives you bonus damage against enemies in your auras. We also learned more about the Occult Gems. They're actually a craftable item, so you'll collect Fugitive Heads and Restless Rot and use those as crafting materials to make Occult Gems, which will be replacing your Jewelry Gems. Occult Gems provide more affixes and complement the Witchcraft skills. Then you need Occult Gems as an ingredient to craft higher tier Occult Gems. Oh, and another great boon for minion players in Season 7, a new rune that'll generate offering just for having a summon. And the more summons you have, up to 6, the more offering you naturally generate over time. So we're seeing a lot of love for minion builds in Season 7. Now for sorcerers, with the nerfs and changes to burning, it does seem like sorcerers are likely to take an overall hit in power, though we are seeing a lot of buffs to try to make up for it. The good news is that the death of the burning meta means a lot more build variety opening up that is not dependent on burning, or even on conjuration mastery for that matter. Lots of buffs to Ball Lightning seem to suggest that Ball Lightning will be back in meta for Season 7, though in a slightly different form. Barbarians are getting big buffs, lots of multipliers for Earthquake builds. Barbarian Glory looks to be returning in Season 7. Even Hammer of the Ancients is getting some love. Druids are seeing huge buffs to their spirit boons. Well, first off, now it'll only cost 60 spirit per animal rather than 100 to unlock the spirit boons, but the boons themselves, the Deer's Gift of the Stag, previously gave you 40 max spirit. Now it also gives you 5 spirit per second. That's incredible. Especially early game, druids suffer from resource issues, and this is a huge help. Even the Wolf Energize boon was changed from a lucky hit chance to restore 30 spirit to a lucky hit chance to restore all spirit. Druid stonks are on the rise for Season 7. Now Necro is getting a big hit to its best build, Spirit Wave. The title aspect will now have to wait until its Blood Wave ends before you can cast a new one. This is pretty devastating for the build. Spiritborn didn't get a lot of big nerfs. What it mostly got was fixes and some buffs to skills that weren't being used. It's looking like Spiritborn will likely still be S tier next season, as opposed to triple S plus tier. The overpowered resolve stacking meta has been killed, however. You will no longer be able to temper extra resolve stacks onto gear anymore. That temper recipe is being replaced with extra armor. The Rod of Kepelepi is being massively nerfed, as we spoke about last time. The Viscous Shield and aspect of redirected force bugs are being fixed. They will no longer deal a ton more damage than expected. Outside of balance changes, we're getting a great quality of life change coming. Infernal Hordes compasses of the same tier will now stack up to 99. And while we've already covered it, just a reiteration on a nice new quality of life feature. Players will no longer need to complete class quests they have already completed in the past. It's not a huge deal for some, but it's part of what adds to the low-level Druid feeling just like a slog. Druid really has the most involved class quest. You gotta start by unlocking a stronghold, then you gotta farm up all your animal spirits. It just compounds with the Druid being the slowest class to ramp up in power. As a reminder, folks, Season 7 is expected to start on January 21st, so still quite a whiles away. Oh, and the Diablo 4 community team prepared this Thanksgiving meme, a new world boss, Meleagris the Unthankful, and I unironically love it. How funny would it be if, when you logged in during Thanksgiving weekend, there would be a new giant turkey world boss? I mean, even if it was just like a reskin of a Shava kind of already is a giant turkey. Then in some Path of Exile 2 news, as we get ever closer to the early access launch next Friday, we've had a bunch of content creators reveal interviews with the devs and more information as well. For instance, while flask charges normally refill by killing enemies, it is possible for flasks to roll with the ability to gain charges per second. This is going to be probably pretty dang useful in boss fights. PoE 2 bosses are going to be tougher than PoE 1 bosses. The fights can last some minutes, and you do got to do the full fight in one go. No more checkpoints, I think, is how it's going to work. We learned from Jonathan in an interview with Talkative Try that runes cannot be removed from gear, though it's not clear whether runes can be overwritten. If they can neither be removed nor overwritten, this may result in people keeping their rune slots empty in order to not devalue the item for trade later on, since people are likely to have different needs for their runes. So hopefully you will be able to overwrite an existing rune. Jonathan also confirmed that the 7-second strongbox monster spawns shown in the reveal footage was recorded before they upped the spawn rate, as in decreased the amount of time before the spawn happens. So when the game goes live, it will take less time for the monsters to spawn than we saw in the video. We also got a reveal of a bunch of skills this week, which really showcased how Spirit will be a resource in high demand for a lot of players to want to apply all their buffs. It also looks like chests can now roll with different rarities, magic, rare, and possibly even unique chests. Jonathan also clarified that the Blood Mage's first ascendancy skill, the blood orbs that you pick up, they don't just heal you, they also allow you to overcap your health up to double the original amount. This kind of changes everything and makes it much more useful and powerful. He also confirmed that you will not be able to respec your ascendancy at the launch of early access, and there are internal discussions within the team on whether it should ever be possible. And I'm seeing more and more over time in the ARPG community a push towards respec as opposed to being locked into choices. The thing is, not being able to respec basically means that if you want to try a different ascendancy for the same class, you make a new character of the same class, play the start of the campaign completely identically until you reach the point where you make your ascendancy choice. You're not getting a different leveling or progression experience. I could understand not allowing you to respec into a completely different class, since every class will have a different leveling experience, but not being able to respec will just discourage people from trying a different ascendancy within the same class. In a game that offers such a huge wealth of player choices, locking choices behind friction, like having to replay the exact same campaign on the exact same class until you reach the exact same ascendancy, it just feels like a degree of artificially extending playtime that really isn't needed when there is so much to experience in the game. Now, I personally don't feel strongly about this. I'm fine if you can never respec your ascendancies, but it seems an ever-growing number of players are in favor of respec. So I turn the question to you folks, how do you feel? Sound off in the comments. Then some sad news for the PoE community. The racing leaderboard, poeracing.com, will be shutting down. After almost 10 years of maintaining it, the dev has realized that there is just no reasonable path forward to maintaining the site now that accounts operate differently in PoE 2, and he would have to manually relink every single PoE 1 player's accounts to his website. It's always sad when a community resource goes down, but we're always grateful to the efforts of those who have created and maintained these resources, generally paying out of pocket and costing them countless hours of their time. Also, people have been asking me what I'm most excited about in PoE 2. Easily, for me, it's the new Atlas. I love having an endgame system that ties together the various endgame activities and offers some sense of meaningful progression. And as well, the other question I keep getting, my starter build that I'm planning to go with as of right now is a minion witch. Then we actually got some Grim Dawn news this week. For those who may not be aware, a new expansion for Grim Dawn is on its way. It's called Fangs of Asterkarn, and it was announced a while ago now. It's going to release sometime next year. I believe the latest word was that it'll release no earlier than March. I think it was originally revealed in 2023, scheduled for 2024, but with an asterisk that it would likely be delayed as they're just ramming and jamming more and more into it. So this week they had a 3-hour reveal stream of the Berserker Mastery that'll be coming with the expansion. YouTuber Wrecked by Protoss hosted the stream, and he also posted a recap for those who don't want to watch the full 3 hours, but do want details on the Berserker. Also, the creator of Grim Tools was given permission by the devs to post a preview of the Berserker for folks to dig in and theorycraft. Then on to the Ubisoft news. Well, first off, the company released a blog post and some videos showcasing the stealth gameplay of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And honestly, this one blog has probably sold more people on the game than all of their marketing up to this point. Stealth mechanics seem on point, not revolutionary, but robust enough to satisfy stealth gamers. Then, we've just seen a bunch of negative headlines about Ubisoft in the past week, and so many of them seem to be taken out of context, or are just artificial rage bait, or just generally in bad faith and being uncharitable towards Ubisoft. The first story spreading around is that Assassin's Creed Shadows will feature de novo, account linking, and that the EULA states that you are required to have Ubisoft monitor your RAM. Oh man, Ubisoft monitoring my RAM, that sounds awful, right? Screw Ubisoft. Okay, well, this isn't something new, however. It's not new in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Ubisoft has had this in their EULA for like at least a decade. Also, you know who else has such clauses in their EULA? Every game that has de novo, every game with easy anti-cheat, Riot Vanguard, just about any serious multiplayer game. Just because they monitor your RAM does not mean they can steal your credit card information or hack your computer or really get any sensitive information on you. In fact, Assassin's Creed Shadows does not have any kernel level anti-cheat. These are these kernel levels. These are the ones that would be the most concerning because they have basically full access to your computer and can potentially be compromised and become a serious security risk. And there are popular games that run it and no one bats an eye. And in fact, some games monitor your RAM just to better optimize your performance and have nothing to do with anti-cheats. For those who are going to say, well, we shouldn't even have anti-cheat in a single-player game, and so there's no reason to have this. Then another story that's come out as an attack point on Ubisoft. The Assassin's Creed series executive producer, Marc-Alexis Côté, allegedly said, quote, "One of the things that I've noticed since the pandemic is that we have a lot of juniors in our teams. Probably half the team that's building Assassin's Creed is building a game for the first time." And everyone is saying, oh man, half these people never made a game before, what a joke, the game's gonna be terrible. You know who else never made a game before? The creators of a ton of awesome games from our childhood? Since when was having already made a game a prereq to making a great game? In fact, one can even argue that it's better to have someone who has never made a game before than someone who has made a bunch of bad or mediocre games. Experience does not necessarily dictate talent. And they're not even saying all of our devs have never made a game before. I mean, how is the studio even meant to grow and train up new talent? Then another story. According to Fandom Pulse, a Ubisoft insider has revealed that the company has asked Valve to remove or hide the concurrent player data for its games on Steam, because everyone can see how terribly their games are doing, which is hurting share value. And again, everyone reacts like, yep, typical Ubisoft, being shady, focusing on hiding how bad their games are rather than focusing on making good games. And I'm sorry, but who is Fandom Pulse? Any random website can just lie and say they have insider information. I'm not saying that Fandom Pulse is definitely lying, but there's a reason that serious journalists build up a reputation of trust, and so when they say, yes, we have an anonymous source, we're not divulging their identity, you know, well, okay, they have built up a reputation where we can trust that they're not just bullshitting and lying, because if it came out that they were bullshitting or lying, it would destroy their career. But because it's about crapping on Ubisoft, everyone just takes it at face value without questioning the source, because it's easier to hate on Ubisoft than to think critically. Then the last anti-Ubisoft story, Microsoft has paused Windows 11 updates for PCs with some Ubisoft games installed, including Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Star Wars Outlaws, and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Again, stupid Ubisoft and their garbage games, right? Well, this is a Microsoft problem, not a Ubisoft problem. This is evidenced by Microsoft deciding to pause the rollout of its update rather than Ubisoft pushing out an emergency patch to deal with this. An update that Microsoft pushed out broke those games that were working fine on your computer. And specifically, it's probably de novo that is breaking or causing the games to not work properly, since allegedly cracked versions of these games are working fine. People who installed the update are reporting the games freezing while starting or while loading or at other times, sometimes even black screening. In fact, if you Google search it, you're going to see a ton of hits over the past from a bunch of different games from a bunch of different companies about Windows updates breaking games. Look, at the end of the day, folks, all I'm asking is think critically before jumping on a hate bandwagon. When you have legitimate reasons to criticize a company, throwing in a bunch of false reasons just weakens all of your legit criticism. On that note, we're going to wrap up this week's video, but do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed the biggest ARPG reveal ever. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.